5 adults and 18 children. The list of victims of Mary Ann Cotton is no short one. Mary Ann Robson was born in October of 1832 in Low Moorsley, Durham County, England. Her father was a pitman who had only died when she was 14. Mary Ann left home aged 16 to become an apprentice dressmaker, and in 1852 she married William Mowbray and with him moved to Plymouth. The two had 5 children, 4 of which died from gastric fever. However, these were just Mary's first 4 victims. Out of these, none of the children that had records of their deaths were over the age of 5, and the only child that survived was Isabella Jane Mowbray. In the wake of these deaths, Mary, William and Isabella moved back northeast. The couple then had and lost 3 more children, making the total 7 victims. In January of 1865, William Mowbray lost his life to Mary's gastric fever. Soon after, 2 more of Mary Ann's children died, which only left Isabella Jane, who went to live with Mary Ann's mother soon after. Mary Ann claimed the life insurance that Mowbray had taken out, which was roughly £35, approximately £4,000 today. In claiming the insurance money from Mowbray's death enabled Mary to pursue a career in nursing. There she met George Ward, a patient under her care who would become her second husband and, unbeknownst to him, would be his ending. They got married in 1865, and less than a year later he'd be buried, leaving Mary with a second insurance payout. Just after George Ward's death, Mary Ann looked for work and found it in the form of housekeeping. She began to look after the household and children of James Robinson. However, 2 weeks later, he got the news that his baby had died. In his moment of grief, he turned to Mary Ann for solace, and soon after, she once again fell pregnant. Midway through 1867, Mary travelled back home to care for her mother who had fallen ill. 9 days later, she returned with Isabella Jane, and her mother was victim number 13. Towards the end of 1867, Mary Ann's daughter Isabella Jane, along with 2 more of Robinson's children, would pass away. Mary Ann and James would get married later the same year, and James became husband number 3. After the couple had and lost one last child, James divorced Mary Ann. Although the reasons for this aren't fully known, it's suspected that James got suspicious of Mary after she was pushing for him to take out a life insurance policy, but instead discovered hidden debt that she was holding on to. Towards the end of her marriage with James, it's not known if this was before or after the divorce. However, through his sister Margaret Cotton, Mary found her 4th and final husband, Frederick Cotton. Margaret had been looking after Frederick and his 2 children. However, she died of an unidentified stomach illness in 1870, which allowed Mary Ann to freely marry Frederick in 1871. The same year, the two had a son by the name of Charles Cotton. Towards the end of 1871, Frederick died, leaving Mary with the insurance money from his and his 2 earlier children's deaths. This brought the total victim list up to 21 deaths. Almost immediately after, Mary found herself a lover by the name of Joseph Nattrass, and they moved in together, only for Nattrass to die in mid-1872. Around the same time as Joseph's death, Mary Ann Cotton, as she was now known, found herself working as a nurse for an excise officer called John Quick Manning, whom she quickly found herself impregnated by. In July of 1872, Charles Cotton, the only surviving son of Frederick Cotton, died suddenly. Due to the past poor nutrition of the working class, bad record keeping, as well as the constantly moving people, the deaths of Mary Ann's previous victims went largely unquestioned. However, more recently to the date, this had all improved and the insurance company was getting suspicious. So Charles's body was exhumed and given a more thorough search, which led the pathologist to find traces of arsenic in the corpse's stomach. In a trial that lasted 3 days, Mary Ann Cotton was found guilty for the murder of Charles Cotton on the 8th of March, 1872. She was sentenced to death and faced the noose, but due to being pregnant with the child from John Quick Manning, she was held in prison and her execution delayed. Edith Quick Manning was born in prison and was one of only 2 children that survived Mary Ann Cotton, the other being George Robinson, who she'd had with James Robinson. On March 24th, 1873, Mary Ann Cotton was sent to be hung. However, the execution was botched, and instead of dying when the gallows dropped, she hung and choked to death slowly in a brutal show of example that could have taken anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. She was watched by up to 50 people in a crowd that came to watch the Durham County murderer, as named by The Guardian at the time. After her execution, Mary Ann Cotton's infamy was reduced to a simple nursery rhyme, and in the years that followed, she was forgotten.
She's dead and she's rotten. She lies in her bed, with her eyes wide open. Sing, sing.